viewers, welcome to M4TV Let's Connect. This world is but a canvas to our imagination. More than 50 years of career span in Indian arts, a strategic leader, senior leader in management of Hallmark events in Victoria, founder of Academy of Indian Music in Australia. These are only few of the many achievements of our guest today. Welcome Shri Ravi M Ravichandra to M4TV Let's Connect.
Good evening, Resmi.
Hello sir, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Sir, you had a vision when you started Academy of Indian Music about 35 years ago. What was that vision? What was society's reaction at that time?
Okay, let me talk about the vision first. The vision, there are a number of things we had in our minds at the time.
Okay.
But we had to actually shift as we traveled through our journey. I'll talk about the visions first. The Academy was to be formed with a far-reaching vision in mind. And first and foremost thing was facilitating, coaching and mentoring of Karnatic music and dance and human values. That was the first and foremost thing in our minds. Okay. Then we also wanted to raise the profile of Karnatic music and dance among our own communities first, and the wider communities or societies later. Then creating a framework for new music to be developed for experienced artists to work with artists from other disciplines or practices. Then we also wanted to develop the next generation of artists at the right time, of course, to earn a place and create pathways for them.
Okay.
Working with peak government bodies to campaign equality, equity and recognition of one's efforts. And we also wanted to campaign against, shall I say, inverted commas, racism in our own communities. Sometimes we have to address them in the right way. Aspire for excellence before seeking grants and not waste taxpayers' money. So we had to do our own homework first. That's what I'm trying to say. And raise the importance of education in human values for ourselves first, and our society and the younger generation of artists. Creating a framework for Karnatic music and dance, get them recognized properly, not as an alternative instrument at a government secondary school and a tertiary school, because we find that that's not the best way, because the Western supremacy is a barrier and it has to be broken. So we felt the need for bureaucrats to be re-educated to pave way for the new curriculum to be developed outside of the old framework. So these were our ambitions and the vision at the start.
Okay. Wow,
how the society
what a great vision you
reacted
had.
at that. Yeah, but it's a very reasonable vision.
Yes.
Whilst it might be ambitious, it's very important to set some strategies in place and work through them slowly.
Yes.
But what your second part of the question was, what is the society's reaction at that time? I should say very high levels of energy and enthusiasm persisted all the way through by many first generation immigrants and the support of people who were working in the government organizations at the time.
Okay.
Because it's the people who make the difference.
Is that enthusiasm mainly only from Indians, or does it? Did you experience that from other communities within Australia?
See, when the academy was first formed, we had migrants from India and Sri Lanka,
Yeah.
and we were working with those people initially. So a lot of enthusiasm was exhibited by the first generation migrants from India and Sri Lanka. But when I talk about the society as a whole, and I work with government agencies, they're not necessarily from the South Asian diaspora at all. They are bureaucrats or people who are working for government organizations or peak bodies.
So the vision you had 35 years ago, you told me you had to actually revisit it few times, but has it evolved over time when you look back?
Yes, it has, because we have to shift our goals from time to time. When I say goals, the vision stays the same, but we need to be reassessing where we are. Things that are really have to be put in the hard basket for a start. We have to keep reviewing them and look at the government policies at the time and people's attitudes. And we need to constantly review the action plans, so to speak.
Okay. So was it really hard to get into the wider community then?
I should say wider community is always hard because we didn't have a proper infrastructure at the time. So we need to try new things at the time and work with people who were before my time, people like Dr. Chandra Banu and a few people who were not as well established at the time, were Shanti Rajendra in the dance field. They had come here as students, but they had limited, I suppose, students at that time because they didn't want to overcommit themselves, not knowing what their future might be. So we had to seek their input and work with them and seek out their own experiences and learn from them. What would probably the best way forward.
It is nice to hear that you had some guidance at that time too.
Well, we also had people like Mohindra Dhillon, who's no more. He had the Spirit of India performance series run for a long time, but he was mainly focusing on the wider audiences. He wasn't catering for South Indian diaspora at all, or South Asian diaspora. He was mainly focusing on a wider community. So the duration of the program and everything was very different. So he was only interested in people who are elite musicians or dancers in India.
Okay, that's great. Sir, you have a civil engineering honours degree from City University, London, and you have worked with Vicroads in various leadership roles for about 34 years. And alongside, you continued your passion as an artistic director and mridangist. It's so inspirational how you have succeeded in both areas at the same time. How did you achieve this?
It's rather tricky. I can only share my experience, and it's up to you to see whether that was successful or not. I was thrown in the deep end at the age of 19. My home comfort zone disappeared when I left for London to do civil engineering honours degree. Although it was a complete culture shock for me, I soon adapted to my new environment. That's the first thing. First of all, to make a difference, I love to develop a strategy by working with consulting with people and listening to the experience of others who have done similar work. So once the strategy is in good shape, The rest is all about how much time one can set aside amongst all other priorities and working towards achieving those goals. The reason I'm saying that, I have to stress on this point. In Tamil, we say, "Sambalamillada udyogam," means there's no reward for these sorts of things because there's no monetary gains when you do these sorts of things. So I had to have the capacity to review my own action plans progressively.
Okay.
Whilst there were no barriers whatsoever talking to government organizations and invite myself to meetings, etc., you also have to have people on the other side happy to listen to you and make a difference. So when I compare my civil engineering skills with artistic skills, one should recognize that one doesn't need to have a PhD to be a leader, to organize things and whatnot. So what is most important is the interpersonal and management skills, which are transferable from one role to another. So what I'm trying to say is that I learned a lot by observing how people, my subordinates and my senior leaders, tackled their own management upwards and downwards when situations changed so frequently in big roads I'm talking about. So that's the key learning for me. On the home front, my wife Narmada contributed a great deal towards our own development. She contributed significantly to the development of the academy in the areas of vocal music, violin, and Bharatanatyam. Further, she looked after the needs of my parents and her mother by looking after them at our own home, and taught me how to care for our own parents who have made several sacrifices for us. So, and then at the same time, she had to compose, sing, play violin, choreograph for dance music, for annual concerts, preparations, etc., etc. The list goes on and on. She went out of the way to also perform violin the day before our second son was born. So that's a remarkable journey for her. And another thing I cannot forget ever in my life, it's we were fully committed to our involvement with dance debut concert. And my beloved father was in the hospital at the time, sinking. And until we staged the dance debut, he was praying that he should be alive without any hindrance. The next day, my father passed away. So you can understand the pressures artists go through. And we lived through those pressures.
Surely. Wow, what an inspirational life you had, and especially Shrimati Narmada as well. It's so inspirational for us.
Well, I think these experiences I'm only sharing so that people understand the difficulties of life in a foreign land where we don't have mates, we don't have somebody to come and help you. I'm the only child and I don't have brothers or sisters. Narmada didn't have brothers or sisters in Australia. So we had to do all these things ourselves. And also we are looking after the interests of my guru. When my father was not, was sinking in the hospital, I should say, my guru was here, Karnatic Mani sir was here, about to play for the Into the Fire performance at the Victorian Arts Centre. You can imagine what the level of pressure that would have put on us. Although he's very independent, was very caring, but I must say that he was asked me to play for one of the pieces. So playing with a maestro is not a simple thing.
No.
And because the next day my father passed away, I didn't play. I'm just painting a picture to say a life of an artist while working for Vic Roads and looking after the children all by herself, Narmada was not an easy task.
No, not at all.
It's an understatement.
Yes, definitely. I have no words. You have received the prestigious Medal of the Order of Australia in 2012 to honor your leadership in many senior roles in public service and your services to the arts. Will you please talk us through how you were approached to become a recipient of that award?
I can only share my experience here. There is no definitive pathway or a formula to become a recipient of this award. For your information, you're probably speaking to the wrong person if that's what you're thinking. I will have the experience to share. I'm just one of the hundreds and hundreds of people who've been given that sort of a recognition. So in my case, all I can tell you is that a member of the public, not a high-profile member, who thought I'm worthy of a nomination, and he or she wanted to remain anonymous, and he or she must have put that application through. I was notified by the government if I choose to accept that nomination while being considered for it. Okay. So they must have done the checks and balances and done the scrutiny before they could consider me for the nomination or the recognition rather. So Narmada and I were naturally happy to accept the honors. Later I found that a fair degree of scrutiny was applied to verify the claims put forward by the nomination, put in the nomination rather. And I must say, when I inaugurated the Academy, I didn't have the slightest idea of the Order of Australia honor system. So that's a point I like to make. These things happen when you do a piece of work over a number of years without expecting rewards and recognition. So after two and a half decades, for the first time, I found few names being mentioned in the local Tamil newspapers as being few people being selected for the Victorian State Service Awards. That's how I became familiar with this sort of system within the Victorian state. So of late, I should also say, quite a number of people showing a lot of interest, and to the point that they are sometimes envious, I should say, about these sorts of awards. I don't think that's the way we should look at it.
Yeah. Wow. That's a great experience. Thanks for sharing that. Will you please share us your experience playing with the Ustad Zakir Hussain?
Okay, it was a fantastic program with Zakir Hussain. People loved it. It was Zakir Hussain, myself, and Viku Vinayakaram sir. All three of us performed 45 minutes ensemble, followed by Mandolin Srinivas playing the instrumental segment. So it's a performance that was organized at the request of Zakir Hussain. So it was much easier to work with him. I was fortunate and took it as a privilege to perform with a famous performer and a performer of high caliber.
As we all know, you and your wife Srimati Narmada are the artistic directors of the iconic Melbourne Trinity Festival of Music and Dance and Nantikeshwara Festival. How have you both used your individual skills to work cohesively over the past 3 decades?
We have known almost all of the musicians, artists I should say, music and dance performers of Melbourne and Sydney and some overseas artists. So it was really easy to work with him. The entire focus was on homage. So people were given the opportunity to prepare themes, innovate and present their own ideas for each of their own segments. Also, the next generation of artists, that generation is growing in Melbourne and other parts of Australia. So we embrace all of them and have a chat to them and ask them what they would like to do, as well as what we would like to see them do. So we reach a common platform on what they are quite capable of presenting. So it's a performance that everyone looks forward to, and it's become an iconic festival. Also with the input of overseas artists and interstate artists coming on board and collaborating with us.
I think definitely it will be a good platform for the growing artists here, the new artists I mean.
For sure, because they take part and become engaged in the festival as not only as performers but also come as part of the volunteer group.
So what is some of your advice that you want to share with your current PhD students or aspiring artists if they wish to pursue the same path as you?
I would, for a start, as much as I would like to do further studies in Narmada, and I would like to do further studies and gain a master's degree or PhD, it is not easy at all in Australia because there's so many barriers we strike. So for people to do a traditional art form in Australia and gain a PhD or do research work and with a view to gaining PhD, it's extremely hard. And because it's the whole structure is Anglo-Saxon, I guess, focus. So really need to break the barriers and work with them. So it's a very hard task for anybody to do that. I know a few people have done it. My students have done PhDs here, but their main degree has been Western classical music. But with the benefit of long years of Karnatic study and mridangam and other things, they have been able to do pretty good work in Australia. But all that is really done in a manner that is not to my satisfaction, not in terms of the quality, talking about the process. I know Griffith University in Queensland is offering these sorts of programs, but people have to select the topics in a very different way, not in the traditional format. So if they're taking a traditional format, it's pretty hard because you need to find the right assessors for a start.
Thanks for that advice, sir.
Yeah, it's something that we have to find time to work towards. And I'm sure people, like-minded people will be focusing on those things.
So the scene now is not what it used to be about 35 years back. Now youngsters have more opportunity and exposure. Do you think this sudden fame can be detrimental to young artists?
I think the qualifying statement is that the opportunities are extremely important for artists to grow, and that's happening. What really needs to happen, if people are already not doing it, I think they should seriously consider doing a self-assessment after each concert is done and having trusted conversations with their peers or their gurus or people whom they can talk about their own performance and improve on matters that they can improve on the next time. That's a very critical point for further development. Otherwise, the progress will be really slow. That's all I can say. So make the best use of all the opportunities.
Thank you, Sri Ravi M Ravichandra, for connecting with us in M4TV. And thank you for sharing your wonderful experience with us today.
Vanakkam and greetings. Thank you for M4TV for providing this great opportunity to share my own thoughts. Whilst I have so much to say about a passionate topic like this, the questions were very close to my heart, and I'm sure there'll be another opportunity to share more of my own thoughts. I also, as a concluding remark, the festival, Trinity Festival, is something that we love to stage at this point in time, but due to the government rules of the day, we have to plan the whole festival to be staged on a virtual platform or something. That's something that we are aspiring, and hopefully we'll be able to take that as a challenge, and many artists will have to take those things as a challenge and present them. With the improved technology, I'm sure you have seen many things are happening right at this point in time. It's an extension of what we see now. Will have to be staged in a proper way so that everyone has the benefit, not only the Australian artists and Australian audiences, but also the whole world would be able to see the festival if it's done on a virtual platform. We'll see what holds for us in the future. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you.
வணக்கம் M4TV நேயர்களே.